Callum Young. I work at CBRE's Asia Pacific platform with capital markets, and I'm an executive director within that.
Interesting, thank you. And why did you decide to study at the University of Aberdeen? And why particular these degrees in business administration and masters in real estate?
And yet, look, I picked Aberdeen University because it was as far away from home as I could get and still stay in Scotland. And I actually really liked the Aberdeen campus. In terms of sort of undergraduate, I liked the flexibility that was on offer within the art school. You were able to pick different modules and kind of change courses, which was good for me when I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. The postgraduate wasn't my original plan, but when I was in the process of kind of graduating, didn't know what I wanted to do, kind of looked at a few different options, and I really liked the multifaceted aspects of real estate. And so following a conversation with Professor Norman Hutchison, who I think is still there, I had a really inspiring chat and decided to kind of go down that route.
Interesting. And your career began in the UK at Savills. What are some key lessons you learned from that experience early in your career?
Yeah, so look, I mean, it's a long time ago now, right? I started working in 2007, but I guess the importance of sort of work ethic, I always found that, if you're more diligent, you network harder, you try to sort of think laterally, and then sort of clients and industry players will want to work with you. If I take my first two roles, so first role was in Glasgow, there it was really about teamwork, that can kind of trump individual behaviour, and the importance of good mentors as you go through your career. I think that sort of serves you well, and that you need to be persevering in difficult market conditions, but also kind of adaptable too. And then if I look at sort of the second role, which I did in London, it's really about, I guess, the value of specialising in a role or market. And there was offices in the city of London, and that sort of being an expert is sort of what clients will pay you for. But also the importance, I guess, of just being really kind of comprehensive in everything you do, being clinical, but then I guess the balance between sort of short-term execution, making money, and then sort of longer-term business development and sort of relationships.
Interesting. And your career has taken you from the UK to Korea, Singapore, and Hong Kong. And what have been the defining moments in your journey, some key milestones to become an executive director at CBRE Asia Pacific?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think my career's gone on for 18 years and counting now, so hard to say what defining moments have been. There's been a few, but again, I think the sort of consistent theme for me has just been about having the right kind of sponsors throughout your career. And for me, it's always been about just sort of presenting new challenges and trying to prove myself time and time again and try to be better than I was before. I guess initially, it was getting into the industry. I graduated during the global financial crisis, which was a very different and difficult environment, but I was fortunate to kind of work with the head of a business from day one. And then it was about, going into a big global city in London, which was a little bit less forgiving. Everything was kind of fast paced, but there it was really about sort of showing myself if I could operate in London, I could do that anywhere. And then again, it was kind of getting outside your comfort zone and going to Seoul, which was really my sort of entry point, I guess, to Asia, and a bit of a springboard into doing something in a more sort of regional capacity. And then again, sort of moving to a different firm. So sort of again, different culture. So each stage of the career, there's been kind of lessons and takeaways, which hopefully sort of stood me in good stead.
Very impressive, very impressive. And how would you say work in real estate in UK and like Hong Kong, Singapore, and Korea different from each other?
That's a massive question because I've worked in 5 different markets, right? And I think it depends ultimately, kind of which area you're talking about. Day-to-day work and culturally is different, but if you're speaking about sort of different markets, it depends on a few things, right? How mature that market is, how domestic or international that is, the extent of sort of institutional ownership, and the types of clients you're interacting with. I think it also depends at which point in the cycle it is too. So I guess that's sort of a long way of saying that every market kind of comes with its own opportunity and challenges at any given time. And now, even if I take my role in Asia Pacific, there's 5 developed markets and 7 developing markets, so a lot to keep you busy with, but you have to kind of stay nimble.
Yeah, well, interesting. And what leadership qualities do you believe are essential for managing high-profile investment deals and global client relationships?
Yeah, and look, that's a good question. I think in terms of deals, thorough preparation is key. I think, again, being sort of comprehensive in terms of sort of follow up with investors. I think an ability to anticipate and respond to issues which they arise because they always do in deals. But also, I think just the ability to sort of see things from all sides and try and come to a sort of resolution when conflicts do come up. And in terms of sort of managing client relationships, again, I think each client is unique in terms of what they want. Some will want something very specific from you. Others will want a comprehensive service with lots of kind of bolt-on functions beyond capital markets. And again, some clients like a light touch. Others want to see you all the time. So it's really, I guess, listening about what clients want and getting feedback from them, taking it on board. I think from a selfish perspective, or at least kind of what I'm doing day to day, client expectations are that you will listen to them, you'll give them what you want. But over and above that, they're really wanting sort of new ideas or kind of areas they can explore together, as well as wanting sort of access to any off-market deals and the first dibs on any deal you do have to. So.
Interesting. And what major trends do you see shaping the future of real estate in Asia Pacific?
Yeah, I'll try and give you a brief answer to that because obviously Asia Pacific is a very big region with a lot of different dynamics. But I think sort of high level, the way we view Asia Pacific, and at least sort of at a global level, is that it will continue to be the global growth engine. It offers the largest and most compelling sort of demographic pool anywhere, and it's really a sort of diversification play from the rest of the Western world. With a sort of growing pool of institutional buyers, we're seeing sort of volumes increasing and capital markets ultimately kind of mature. So I think all these trends will continue. If I have to pick out a couple of specific trends, I think you will see an expansion of the listed real estate space. If you look at the size of listed markets in China, India, and Korea, they're still very small, but they'll kind of continue to grow at pace. I think we'll continue to see more intra-regional capital, in part sort of driven by geopolitics, and in part driven by sort of superior growth prospects from the rest of the world. And the last one would just be India as a market. I think is now really becoming sort of too significant. It's sort of too significant for large players to ignore in terms of its sort of scale and growth prospects. So they would be my top picks.
Interesting. And what role does sustainability and ESG considerations play in real estate investment today?
Look, again, it's a good question, and the answer is that they do play an important role, but it's case by case. I think the demands and the requirements for sort of ESG and sustainability vary by country and they vary sort of by client. But sort of speaking plainly, there's a huge divergence across Asia Pacific. And in North Asia in particular, I would say they are less significant than you would see in European markets. The demands are less in those markets than you would see in Europe.
I see. And looking back, what is the biggest achievement in your career, in your opinion? What is the proudest moment for you?
Yeah, I'm too humble to admit anything, but look, no, I think it's probably the ability to adapt. And so it's hard to define one moment, but I think it's the ability to adapt and take on new challenges. And I've worked with a really eclectic mix of people from all over the world and been part of some amazing teams. The anecdote I would give you, and I stopped tallying a couple of years ago, but when I last counted, I'd been involved in transactions with investors from over 40 different countries
Mm-hmm.
around the world, which I think
Yes.
which is quite unique and something quite cool. I don't think many people could say that.
That's very impressive. And what advice would you give to students who want to work in real estate, especially in like international markets?
Yeah, look, go for it. It's a lot of fun. No day is kind of different. Brace yourself for rejection. Don't take no for an answer, especially kind of in difficult markets like we're seeing at the moment. But get yourself out there, build a network. You never know the people you meet, kind of what those conversations could lead to in future years. If you are looking to work overseas, make an effort to get on planes and meet people. Doing the stuff virtually is really hard. You'd be amazed by the amount of people who reach out to me for jobs in Asia who've never even been here. It's hard to show that you're committed if you've
Mm-hmm.
actually not got on the plane to go somewhere. I would say the people who have ended up in sort of roles overseas are typically the ones who've invested the time and energy to get out here. And the last one, again, honestly, think big. The peers I have in the industry who've been most successful are the ones who've been prepared to take risks and to acquire new perspectives.
Mm, interesting. And you mentioned networking. In your opinion, what's the best way our students can benefit from networking and how to do it correctly?
Yeah, I don't think there's one size fits all answer to that in terms of networking correctly. It takes practice. Some people are natural networkers, others have to kind of work harder and sort of just get experience. I think it's just a case of getting yourself out there, make yourself, even if you're uncomfortable, be proactive, reach out to people, so don't accept no for an answer, and just stick at it. Try everything. There'll be certain networks you'll build which won't be for you, but I think the best approach is to just try things and see what works for you. And
Mm,
again, I think people will be surprised about the power of a network in future years, and that you can get referrals 5 years, 10 years down the line, which end up resulting in business or opportunities. So just persevere and stick with it.
interesting. And are there any books or podcasts you would recommend? It might be career or non-career related.
Yeah, I have a different answer depending on which role I've done. I do a lot more reading fiction rather than business reading
Mm-hmm.
these days. But I think my advice would be to just kind of keep learning, keep reading. I've done a lot of qualifications which people in Asia have never heard of, but at the time they were a good idea. So I think it's whatever captures your imagination at that moment. And the industry is always evolving, so I think you kind of have to. I was kind of a self-proclaimed real estate geek when I was younger, and do still spend a lot of my time listening to real estate media or podcasts. There's so much content that's good now I think people are kind of spoiled for choice. But again, I would say there's no substitute for face-to-face interactions with that sort of networking. Do it when you don't feel like it, and I think that will serve you well. The only plug I would say, or the thing I think is quite interesting, if you go into LinkedIn and look at CRE analyst,
Mm-hmm.
it's US focused, but they provide some pretty interesting analysis and commentary around kind of industry trends.
Interesting. And last two questions. What are some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen?
Um, Personally, I used to play football for the university team, so I always loved doing that. So yeah, it'd be in a football context, and I always liked sort of April and May when the weather was good. So yeah, a lot of fun memories of Aberdeen. But again, it's almost 20 years ago now, so.
Interesting. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't take yourself so seriously. I'd probably still give myself that advice now. Enjoy myself probably a little bit more, and remember that people tend to not think about what you've said as much as you do. Don't get too much inside your own head. Keep practicing.